Hello, everyone. My name is John Bourne, and this is part two of the organizational behavior analysis of the Dow Chemical Company. Within this presentation, we'll talk about the six main segments or six main chapters that we talked about throughout the semester, and starting with management strategies and ending with workforce diversity. Just a quick reference slide here, some personal background and company background. This was in the previous part one portion of this analysis. However, I wanted to include it as it's still relevant here. Starting out with management strategies. So we look at four main bullet points here: classic approach versus human relations movement, theory X versus theory Y, assumption, contingency approach, and positive organizational behavior movement. Starting with the classic approach is broken out into two different methods, the scientific and administrative. The overall goal is to create the most productivity and efficiency between the process and the employees. However, from the human relations movement, it focuses on the human factors. Those that have better morale, those that have a more positive attitude will have more productivity. The classic approach is more measurements and numbers versus the human factors in the human relations movement. Theory X is very pessimistic view. That means micromanagement of employees. The employees don't want to be there. That's the assumption of the leader. Theory Y is completely different. It's optimistic. The employees have the motivation. They want the responsibility. They want to be there. It tells us that the leader is either assumes theory X or assumes theory Y within those assumptions. The contingency approach is a management method contingent on all factors. So it looks at all different variables before deciding on the correct management approach for that specific method, or for that specific process, excuse me. It is essentially a customization of management method due to the factors. The positive organizational behavior movement focuses only on strengths. It has a potential for skill development gaps there because it does avoid the weaknesses. Moving over to leadership strategies, the LMX model and the path goal theory of leadership are analyzed here. So within the LMX model, you have a group that is considered the in-group and a group that is considered the out-group. The in-group is close and has a high-quality relationship. The out-group is more transactional with their leader. The strengths of this model is that it creates strong relationships, it enhances productivity and job satisfaction, but sometimes that's only limited to the in-group. The limitations of the in-group, limitation of the LMX model is that it's not feasible in fast-paced environments, because in fast-paced environments, you don't have the opportunity to create those long-lasting relationships. It also can create a negative perception from the out-group to the in-group. And it's a division. Because of that, it can create a division among team members. So the LMX model essentially looks at the unique leader to team member relationships. The path goal theory of leadership tells us that there's four different approaches that a leader can take, and one of them is going to be the correct approach for the specific goal or process or achievement that they're looking to have. The four approaches are the directive, supportive, participative, and achievement-oriented approaches. Strengths, it addresses each situation differently, promotes agility, and promotes employee motivation, right? Because each situation is different, so you're kind of molding your approach around the situation. The benefits is that it reminds leaders to prioritize employees and their overall goal of being the leader, and it creates a positive work environment as well. For power and politics, we focused on employee empowerment and ethical and unethical political tactics. So starting with employee empowerment, it's pretty self-explanatory in that it's participative and it shares power amongst the team members. It requires leader trust. It increases the responsibility of the employees and their freedom. However, it requires a clear expectation and boundaries so it doesn't get abused. The implementation and just talking about some of the requirements of employee empowerment is that you have to identify and remove power constraints. You have to share information with employees. They have to be knowledgeable about what they're deciding on, and it has to foster a trust culture. The main point of employee empowerment is that trust from leaders to employees. Political tactics are used for career advancements. You often see them in office spaces. Things like making your boss look good, powerful networks around you, staying informed, positioning yourself for a promotion, a career advancement, success, whatever it may be. However, there's also the side that are negative strategies that undermine the trust and integrity, and those would be things such as backstabbing, stealing credit, and those type of things. Conflict and stress. So stress reduction programs, these are suggestions to Dow, and I won't touch on them too in-depthly just due to time constraints, but they're mandatory stress breaks, flexible work days, stress management training, and fitness activity reimbursements. Moving down into the conflict management styles, competitive, accommodative, sharing, collaborative, and avoidant. These are imperative to both this and the stress reduction programs are imperative to creating a positive work environment. And if these aren't focused on by the Dow Chemical Company, it can create a hostile environment. It can create a situation where people don't want to go to work. So these suggestions and these styles are imperative to avoid conflict, to avoid overstress of employees. The organizational structure of the Dow Chemical Company is that they have a traditional structure. CEO is at the top, Jim Fitterling, and then the business presidents are under him, and the corporate executives as well are under Jim, and they hold the power over their functions and segments, but roll up to the CEO. A couple suggestions on how to improve this structure would be potentially a matrix organizational structure, promoting like cross-functional or cross-business collaboration, decentralizing the power and authority. So that would be like encouraging employee empowerment by like spreading the power closer to the problem. And just simplifying this. There's a lot of different titles. There's a lot of different activity going on in this structure. So streamlining that and getting rid of the confusion could help in decision making. These are all suggestions to the Dow Chemical Company and how they can improve. Organizational change. So with the suggested change of job automation, the purpose would be to eliminate non-value added work for employees throughout Dow. The cost would be roughly $13.2 million per year until completion. And the action would be hiring 100 different robotic process automation professionals to find these solutions. It's essentially streamlining, so it's going to be a significant time savings for work, and it would eliminate roughly 25% of the workforce. This is all well and good. However, there's going to be resistance to this because not only are you getting rid of monotonous jobs, you're also potentially getting rid of roles. So job security concerns would be pretty significant. The resistance solutions to this would be like being transparent. Dow would need to be transparent to their employees, having collaborations, giving the employees a voice so that they feel included in these decisions. Rounding out with culture and diversity here. So South African expansion and Venezuelan expansion are very unique, but Dow wants to enter another American country as well as another African country. Venezuela is completely opposite of the United States in the comparison of power distance and individualism. However, South Africa is very similar. So to this point, Dow should be cautious in how they enter the Venezuelan market, understanding those cultural differences. It's easier from a South African perspective. However, it's very necessary to understand the details when you're entering Venezuela. And you can see the comparison here in the graph. Rounding it out with diversity, current strategies, Dow utilizes equal opportunity hiring, employee research groups for different disabilities, different ethnicities, races maybe. They have different groups that help combine employees into having allies. inclusion and diversity moments, and yearly training sessions. So my recommended strategies would be cross-functional conversations within the company, a floating holiday, feedback from the workforce, and then again, cross-cultural awareness would be that last one. With that, that is the end of the slideshow, and I thank you for listening.